Hey guys, I'm going to show you in this tutorial how to create a double exposure portrait using Photoshop and two images that I've gotten from the internet. So this is what the end photograph is going to look like. So I'm going to show you the steps that I took to get to this result here. So what you first need to do is go up to File and select Open, and find the image that you're going to work with, so the face first. Double click on that and that will open. Okay, now what you're going to do is in your palette here, if you hold down this icon, you'll get two options, either the quick selection tool or the magic wand tool. We want to select the magic wand tool. Then what you need to do is just click anywhere in the white background, and what will happen is you will get these little running ants around the main part of your image. Now what we want to do is we want to inverse the selection so that we just get the head and the shoulders selected and not the background. So to do this, we go up to Select and we go to Inverse. And as you can see now, the running ants are all around my person here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit and Copy, or you can use the shortcut Control C. I'm going to create a new layer in my Layers palette, which is this little icon here. If you hover over it, it will tell you what it is. So I'm going to click that. And on my new layer, I'm just going to go to Edit and Paste. Again, you can use Control V. And although I can't see it on my screen here, I can see that it has pasted into that layer for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back on my background layer in the Layers palette. And I'm going to go up to Edit and Fill. And what I want to do is I want to fill my background layer with white. So if you drop this menu down, you can select a lot of different options, but because we're just going with white, that's the very bottom one. So I'm going to select that one and go OK. Now I can see in my Layers palette that the background is white, and then I've got my image here. So I'm going to click back on layer 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to now find my landscape picture. So I'm going to go, actually before I do that, I'm quickly going to change that picture to black and white. So just quickly, if you go up to Image, now you don't have to do this depending on what effect you want, but I like how it looks. If you go to Image and Adjustments and select Desaturate, that will make it black and white. Okay, for your own double exposure portrait, you might keep it color, but this is just a practice go. So I've got that as black and white. Now I'm going to place my landscape image in. So File and Place. And I'm going to find the landscape image that I want, this one. Okay. And as you can see, it's not quite the size. So I'm going to resize that one, holding down Shift to keep it in proportion. And I'm going to click Enter once I'm happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my Move tool again so that I'm not on my Selection tool, and I'm going to go back to my Layers palette here, and I'm going to right click, and like we did in our title page tutorial, I'm going to go to Create Clipping Mask. And what that does is that clips that image to your silhouette. Okay, now if you feel like you want to move the image, it's not quite where you want it, if you go to Edit, Transform and Scale, that will allow you to move it without actually moving the whole picture. So you can kind of get it to how you want it. Okay, once you're happy, again, select Enter. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer mask on that clipping mask. So I'm going to select this one here, so Add Layer Mask. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the young to old portrait using my brush tool. So again, the brush tool here, or if you select the letter B on your keyboard, it will select the brush tool. Now my opacity is on about 35, probably no more than 40 is good. depending on what effect you want. And I've made sure that my colour down the bottom here is black. Okay, so again, if I click this little arrow, I can alternate between black and white. Okay, now if I just click on my picture, as you can see, it starts to bring up some of the underneath image. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller. So remember, again, those 2 square brackets on your keyboard allow you to make the brush bigger or smaller. And I'm just going to start bringing out that face. So I'm going to drop my opacity even lower because I want it quite blended. And I'm just focusing on the facial features. Sorry, the nose, mouth, the eyes. Okay, now I'm going to swap it back to white because I want to bring a little bit more of that black tree back in. The face. Okay, swap it back to black, bring the eyebrows a little bit more in. Okay, once you're happy with that, what we're going to do next is we're going to make a background. So what you need to do is select your background layer in your layers palette, and we're going to go to File and Place, and we're going to place the same landscape picture we used. Okay, this time I'm going to resize it to make sure it fills the whole background. Okay, it doesn't really matter where it's positioned as long as it fills it. And then I'm going to click Enter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the filter selection, and I'm going to go to blur and Gaussian blur. Okay, so filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Now as you can see, you can adjust the pixels to how blurry it is. So I kind of like it on about up to say 40 or so is nice. You can adjust that to whatever you prefer. Once you've done it, click OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the opacity of that so it's not so strong against the portrait. So same thing like we did in the title page, up the top here of your layers palette, click on that opacity and you can drop that down to whatever you like, and that creates a really nice background for you. So once you've done that, you need to go to File and Save As. Okay, give it a name. So I'm going to call it Double Exposure Portrait, and I'm going to change it to JPEG, and I'm going to click Save and then OK. And there's your final image.